He never believed a broken man could love again. Not after the night his wife died in his arms, leaving behind a newborn daughter and a lifetime of guilt. Ethan Ward, the cold, unshakable CEO of Ward Enterprises, built walls so high that no one dared to climb them. His days were consumed by work, his nights by loneliness. He lived for two things only: his daughter, Lily, and control. Everything else was locked away in the frozen chambers of his heart. But all it took was a quiet maid with tired eyes and a trembling heart to make those walls crumble, piece by piece. Sparkles, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, then please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Royal Stories. Your support helps us continue sharing heart-touching stories that remind us that love always finds its way. Sparkles. Ethan Ward's mansion was as grand as it was empty. Polished marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and halls that echoed with silence. The world saw a man of power, a ruthless businessman who made billion-dollar decisions without flinching. But behind those glass walls was a father struggling to raise a 6-year-old who barely smiled anymore. Lily had her mother's eyes, and every time she looked at him, Ethan felt the sting of what he had lost. He blamed himself for her death, a car crash that had happened after one of their many arguments. From that night on, he swore never to let emotions control him again. Then came Clara, a maid recommended by the housekeeping agency. She was soft-spoken, careful with her words, and carried a quiet sadness that matched the loneliness in his own eyes. At first, she was invisible to him, like the rest of the staff. She moved silently through the house, tidying rooms, doing laundry, and humming lullabies when she thought no one could hear. But one evening, as Ethan walked past Lily's room, he found Clara sitting on the edge of the little girl's bed, reading her a story. Lily was laughing, a sound Ethan hadn't heard in months. Something about that moment stopped him. The warmth in Clara's voice, the gentle way she brushed Lily's hair, it stirred something he thought was long dead. Days turned into weeks, and Ethan found himself noticing her more. She had this way of bringing life into the house, fresh flowers on the table, a melody in the background, warmth in every corner she touched. Yet, she was always respectful, always distant, as if afraid of taking up too much space. He didn't know then that Clara was running from her own pain. She was a widow too, having lost her husband to illness, and was now struggling to rebuild her life while taking care of her younger brother's medical bills. To her, this job was survival. To Ethan, she was slowly becoming peace in human form. The turning point came when Ethan's company faced a scandal. A powerful investor was threatening to withdraw from a major deal because of Ethan's reputation for being emotionally detached and unstable after his wife's death. At a charity event, he needed to show the world, and the investors, that he had moved on, that he could still be the family man they once trusted. His advisor suggested one thing: appear with a partner. A woman who could soften his image, someone believable. He scoffed at the idea at first, but when Clara entered the room carrying Lily's toy bear, her simple presence felt like an answer. He approached her with the proposal, a strange, desperate request. Pretend to be his girlfriend for a few weeks. Attend public events, smile for cameras, and make the world believe he'd found happiness again. In return, he promised to double her salary, pay her brother's hospital bills, and secure her family's future. Clara hesitated. She wasn't used to deception, and the idea of pretending to love a man she worked for seemed terrifying. But when she thought of her brother, lying weak in that hospital bed, she agreed. Just for a while, she said softly. Their fake relationship began awkwardly. The first public event felt like a performance neither of them had rehearsed enough for. Cameras flashed, reporters whispered, and Ethan's hand trembled slightly as he placed it on her waist. But Clara smiled, a soft, genuine smile that melted through his tension. As the night went on, the act started to feel real. She laughed at his rare attempts at humor. He noticed how her eyes sparkled when she was nervous, and the world around them blurred into something dangerously real. At home, the line between pretend and truth began to blur even more. Lily adored Clara, and for the first time in years, their house felt alive. Mornings were filled with laughter and the smell of pancakes. Evenings were quiet but warm, with movie nights and gentle conversations. Ethan started looking forward to coming home, not to his wealth, but to them. Clara began to see the man beneath the cold CEO mask, a father who carried too much guilt and a heart that had forgotten how to trust. But love stories are never simple. The press soon discovered Clara's background. A maid pretending to be a CEO's girlfriend made perfect gossip. They printed her past, twisted her story, called her a gold digger. Ethan's board demanded he cut ties immediately to protect the company's reputation. And in that moment of pressure, he failed her. He let fear win again. He told her to leave, saying it was for her own good. She didn't cry. She simply nodded, handed him the bracelet Lily had made for her, and whispered, "Don't let your fear be your legacy, Mr. Ward." Then she walked away. Days turned into a silence Ethan couldn't bear. Lily stopped talking to him, refusing meals, asking where Clara was. The house went back to being cold and lifeless. He realized he had made the same mistake twice, pushing away the only person who truly saw him. He tried to focus on work, but every deal, every meeting, felt meaningless. The scent of the lavender detergent Clara used still lingered in the hallways, a cruel reminder of what he had lost. It wasn't until one night, when he found Lily crying in her sleep, clutching Clara's bracelet, that he broke. He drove for hours, searching every record until he found where she had gone, an old apartment near the hospital where her brother was still recovering. When she opened the door, her eyes were tired but calm. He didn't speak right away. He just stood there, looking at the woman who had changed his life. Then, with a voice cracking under the weight of everything he'd never said, he whispered, "I asked you to pretend to love me. But you made me believe in love again. I don't want to pretend anymore." Clara didn't answer immediately. She simply took his trembling hand and guided him inside, where Lily's laughter echoed from a video call on her phone. Slowly, Ethan began to heal. He supported her brother's recovery, and she helped him mend his heart. The world eventually forgot their scandal, but he never forgot how she taught him that love doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be real. Months later, they stood together in the same garden where he had once hosted cold, corporate parties. Only this time, there were no cameras, no lies, no pretense. Lily stood between them, holding both their hands as Ethan finally smiled, a genuine, unguarded smile. Clara looked at him with tears in her eyes and said softly, "You didn't lose your heart, Ethan. You just needed someone to remind you where you left it." And as the sun set behind them, Ethan realized that sometimes the most unexpected people walk into your life when you've stopped believing in miracles, and become the miracle themselves. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Royal Stories. Your support helps us keep creating emotional tales of love, loss, and redemption that remind us we all deserve a second chance. Special request. Comment below what you believe love truly means. Your words might inspire someone who needs hope today.